So hi everyone, we've got a really special Monday memo this week because I'd like to introduce to you someone who's been helping us out on Strength in the Number show behind the scenes. His name is Mitan Patel, and I'd like to introduce Mitan to you because he's going to be hosting some of our podcasts into the future. And I guess it's just time for say hi to Mitan. So hi Mitan.
Hello everyone, how you all doing?
It's great. It's great, Mitan. And look, again, I want to say in front of everyone, really appreciate the help you've been putting in behind the scenes on the show, doing a lot of the legwork, particularly around the editing and getting those podcasts ready. But now you've got some shows of your own coming up on the Strength in the Numbers. And I think the first one is where you interviewed me. And that's out soon. So why did you want to get into the podcast, particularly in finance and accounting? Do you want to share a bit behind your story with our audience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, first of all, Andrew, thanks for this absolute privilege. When I met you, I was really enthused actually about what you did and some of the areas you look into and the absolute quality and caliber of the guests that you attract. And I really wanted to try and be part of that, try and help and support you. And I think when we had a discussion, I wasn't quite sure where it lead to, but I'm really excited about some of the work that I've done, some of the work that I'm doing. And I thought what would be good is to almost flip the tables a little bit, have the podcaster be, I don't know if the word's podcasted, but at least interviewed. So and I thought it'd be very interesting. And I know you do the Monday memos, but I thought it'd be really good to get more of a deep dive into your background, your career, your advice. And when I'm looking at editing this podcast, I think I'm going to keep it a little bit more raw, keep more of the bits in, because I think there's a really good story behind it. And I think sometimes it's nice to know more about the person who works and does the podcast, as well as the guests that they interview.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very, very point. And I suppose, like, in terms of our profession, finance and accounting, like, what are your thoughts on the future? Like, what are the things that, I suppose, yeah, exactly. Let's go with that trend, right? Okay, like, I suppose when you interview the podcast, like, what are you hoping from interviewing guests? What sort of things are you hoping that they share with you that you believe our audience would find useful and you personally would find useful?
No, absolutely. It's a good question. And I think people at all levels of their career, and actually I would say also finance and non-finance as well, actually on that point, would find a lot interesting. I mean, let me take it from another point of view in terms of me actually looking at and listening to some of the podcasts. You've had some incredible speakers, and I said the caliber of the speakers are immense. And if we take, for instance, what Larissa says about FP&A and some of the changes happening there, if we take what I sometimes pronounce the name wrongly, but Dr. Neil Toge, is it Dr. Neil Toge?
Yeah, Tego, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the quotes in there are absolutely incredible in his experiences. I think for me, one of the big things that I took from that was his analogy about the car and control. The idea of the idea that which car would you drive fast in? Would it be the one with the brake or the one without the brake? And of course, everyone says the one with the brake, and that is how control unleashes innovation. And I thought that was just incredible. Yeah. And then learning more about his story and what he does and about the value. And this sense is driven by, again, go back to another your speakers, about what is your extra. And I think with accountants, we're very good and sometimes obsessed about the reporting side and making sure the numbers are correct. And that's absolutely fundamental. I get that's a hygiene factor. But if you look at the trends now, I mean, you've got a couple of things coming across. You've got AI and automation that's absolutely going to revolutionize business as a whole, but particularly the finance function. You see this through the finance transformation project. And the role of the accountant will transform and fundamentally shift quite a lot. And there's an excitement in me, but also a fear about the future and the necessary skills. So that's another thing. You take the thought leadership, but you also think, right, how do I lay out my career and learn the right skills that will allow me to not only, actually have a job in a very, very arguably scary world with AI and automation, but also actually succeed and thrive and become that sort of business leader, that trusted advisor, that commercial decision maker. There's a lot in there, but I think it's not just listening and having a good time and enjoying it in terms of from an intellectual pursuit. It's also a very, very hard-nosed career perspective in which, right, what do I have to do to try and be ahead of the curve? Because the other thing that's frustrating is that I don't know if you feel the same, but finance functions are almost the last department, the last division to get with the times, to change.
Yeah.
And your ideas about getting, from the desks, talking to our stakeholders, that should be very natural. And actually, I see it at work. I see people do that. But in terms of taking that next step about, right, we do this locally, but how do we transform things strategically? Or how do we as finance actually help make a decision? How do we help drive that accountability? How do we help drive that true control piece that allows us to really unleash that innovation and value add? And I think that's the perspective I've come from. So as you could tell, Andrea, when you first met me, lots of ramblings.
No, we both can talk.
Yeah,
we're well suited for this.
Yeah, funny that certainly find out on the podcast. Very interesting editing. But yeah, from that perspective, it's about, right, this is, I love that intellectual pursuit. I'm very intellectually curious, but there's also an element of me that's excited but scared in terms of, right, what does the future hold, and therefore what skills do I need? And listen to the people who are not only made it happen, but those are also making it happen.
Yeah, no, I like the way you just described that, and just there touching some of the questions you had. They're all very much how questions in my mind, like practically taking what's working well and putting it in place. So a lot of us could be doing what we're doing better, and being successful, particularly from people who've been there and done that. Not just in terms of being successful in doing stuff, but also where they've made mistakes. And they share their stories on this show, and like that's what I find very useful. Not just what we should be doing, but what we should avoid doing as well, because people have gone down rat holes, and it saves us a lot of time. And one of those sort of leaders out there that has been very successful in doing the how and has got very much more into the transformation space because he's got all that practical knowledge is Anders Leo Lindberg. And he's agreed to do our 100th episode, and Anders was also our first guest on the show a year ago. So given that that's your sort of first guest interview beyond me, how are you feeling about it?
Oh, absolutely excited. Yeah, absolutely ecstatic. And that may sound like hyperbole, but Anders, I've interacted with him by message quite a lot, and I look at his LinkedIn post and the way he thinks and his engagement with the community and his ideas for really pushing, some really, what I would say is actually quite fundamentally basic ideas, but ideas that accountants and finance professionals, I think, struggle with. Yeah. It's the idea of value add. I mean, we talk a lot about value add, but actually actioning it, and Anders gives some incredible advice on actually how to do it. So to have the opportunity as someone, relatively new to the sort of finance environment, to be able to interview someone like that and gain a lot of experience and expertise from him is really good. So yeah, no, really absolutely ecstatic. I think it's going to be really good. And like I said, going back to that bit about why doing the podcasting, it's the incredible caliber of people you have, and Anders is certainly right up there.
Definitely. Well, Mitan, what a great way to end your first sort of introduction and sharing you with our audience. And look, I'm sure it's the first of many, so I'm also excited for that podcast as well. So Mitan, properly welcome to the team, and really looking forward to the podcast with Anders.
Likewise, absolutely ecstatic. Now it's time to let's just drive it, let's do it, and let's see where we go.
Thanks, Mitan. So everyone, look, I hope you enjoyed the introduction to Mitan. If you did, and you're really looking forward to our 100th episode with Anders Leo Lindberg, let your friends and colleagues know about it. We're on all the major platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And I guess until next week, take care of yourselves, and let's keep on building our strength in the numbers.